are in the folder. Okay, because we did learn a new lesson on Thursday. So you need to go back and watch that video. Okay, go back and watch the video because we did you learned new lesson. And this would have been your homework that was due today. We didn't do it as homework. We did these three in class as as classwork. Remind us again, when you are solving by graphing, what do you do? What do you do? What do we do if you're solving by graphing? Put it in your what? Graphing calculator. Okay, and once you put it in the graphing calculator, where are the solutions located? At the x-intercept. So I would like you guys to take a minute, and I would like, let me look at the solutions here. Okay. Yeah, I like that one. Okay. I would like you guys to do this one. Okay. I'd like you guys to do that. Solve by graphing, real quick. Okay, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to pass back your choice board. Some of you had said you really want to make sure that you have this passed back. Okay. It's the x-intercept. How do you find it once you graph it? Do you guys remember? Second calc, 0. Left bound, right bound, intersect.
It's clear. No, I thought you said.
I have one on -1.
-1.
That's Laura, sorry.
I'll give you the
Yeah.
It's like mine. Out of my makeup.
Yeah. Okay. So, what did you do first before you could put this in your graphing calculator, Kaden? Add 2, so you get x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So now you went to your graphing calculator, and in y equals, cleared out anything that you had in there. Make sure your plot is turned off, and then you just typed in what? X squared plus 3x plus 2. Which zoom do I use? 6. Zoom 6, which is standard. That'll get me to the -10, 10 to 1. Now, this one, it's kind of hard, but does it definitely look like it drops below the x-axis? So there's 2 ways you could do it. You could try to just do it from this point. Or remember I taught you zoom box on Thursday? So if you go to zoom in number 1, which is box, I now have a floating cursor. And wherever I hit enter, that will be one corner of my box. And I'm going to make another corner of the box. And this box will now become my new window. I'm going to hit enter. Now I can see it does intersect at 2 places on this one. So I can now go second calc what? Who was I working with? Kaden? 0. Second calc, 0. Now you need to be to the left. So anywhere to the left of the 0 first, hit enter. Then anywhere to the right, hit enter. And then do I want it to guess? Yes, you just hit enter. And what was the first 0? The first one was x equals -2. Do it again. Second calc, 0. I need to be to the left of the 0. Hit enter. I need to be to the right of the 0. Hit enter. I want it to guess. And what did you guys get for the second 0? -1. Okay. Do you guys remember from Friday? Yes, sir.
So when I do the point on the left, it works, but when I go below it, and my right point won't work to find the middle.
Okay, let me see. Show me. Okay, which point? Okay. Which did you already find this point?
No, that's what I'm trying to
Okay. Now go hit enter. Okay, you have 0. No, not intersect. 0.
You didn't zoom this one.
Okay, good. Left point.
Then you go left. Second calc.
There you go.
0. Wait, define
Left
that.
bound.
Just define that.
Okay. Right bound.
Yeah, on the left.
Yes.
Right down.
Okay, got it. Anybody else having issues? All right. The next part that we learned on Friday was solving using square roots. Do number 12 for me. Should take like 2 seconds to do number 12.
Oh, wait.
All right, you should be done. All right, on problem number 12, the first thing you're going to do is isolate the a squared. Landon, is the a squared isolated? Is it a squared all by itself?
Yeah.
Okay, then how do you undo a squared?
Square root.
Square root both sides. Now be careful. What could a be, Landon?
9. Positive or
Plus or minus 9. Plus or minus 9. Okay, do number 18.
Oh.
Well, just because get the x squareds on one side. What are you guys going to do to get the x squareds on one side? 1 minus 1/5 x squared. You got it. Go. Quinn, we got you started. What'd you do first? And when you subtract 1/5 x squared, what'd you have left? 2 equals 2/5 x squared. What'd you do now? Divide both sides by 2/5. And when you did, what'd you get?
0.2.
2 divided by 2/5. Try it again. If you're using a calculator, I do this in my head, but 2 divided by 2/5. You did times. Where's your divided by? Okay, 2 divided by parentheses 2/5. Five. Now, guys, how did I do that in my head without doing my calculator to start? How do you divide 2 divided by 2/5? You multiply by the reciprocal, and then that's over 1, and those cancel. You just get what? 5. Okay. Got to How do you know that? If you did it in your calculator, you did have to have 2 divided by. This is a case where you have to have parentheses around the 2 divided by 5. Okay? All right, now what do I do? Quinn?
We got square root.
And what do you have to make sure you put out front of that square root of 5? Plus or minus. Okay, questions. You will do more of those tonight. Both of those. Both of them. I should probably do a problem like 16. I don't love it, so I was avoiding it. Okay, let's do 16 together. These ones are getting us ready to complete the square. We need to isolate that quantity squared first. So everybody, what would I do to isolate that quantity squared first? Okay, somebody said add the 5. When you do, you get 2 times the quantity x plus 2 squared equals what? Now what? Divide by 2. You get x plus 2 quantity squared. Leave it as the fraction 13 over 2. What would we do now to undo the quantity x plus 2 squared? Square root. Now, remember when I square root that whole side, I'm not going to forget to put a what out front? Plus or minus. And remember, this is the same as a square root of 13 over square root of 2. And can I have a square root of 13 over square root of 2? No. So what are you guys going to do to undo that? Multiply by square root of 2. And what do you get in the numerator? Square root of 26 over 2. Can I break out square root of 26 into any perfect squares? No. Okay, now how do I get x by itself? What do you do to get x by itself now? Subtract 2. And when you guys subtract 2, how do I want you to write this answer? Negative 2 plus or minus square root of 26 over 2. Questions? Okay. We're going to add to this today. Questions so far? So we talked on what day was that? Thursday. We talked about there being multiple ways to solve. But we said on Friday, I think I got 6. Let me know if I owe you guys one. I can't talk and pass out papers at the same time. Hurry up. Okay. So, remember we talked about on Friday, we talked about what a quadratic is. A quadratic is any equation that can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and a cannot be 0, because if a is 0, then you don't have a quadratic anymore. And we talked about there being various ways to solve. We said we can do it by graphing, looking at the x-intercepts. Okay, we did that already on User Graphing Calculator. We talked about using square roots, okay, getting that u squared or x squared all by itself and then taking the square root of each side. And then the last way that was on our notes on Thursday that I said we would talk about this week is by factoring, which is why we did that huge factoring review last week. Okay? Solve by factoring. Solve by factoring. So just like we solve when we graph it, we have to get, of course he went to the bathroom when I picked him. We have to get one side equal to 0. So Jack, I've got to get this side equal to 0. So how are you going to move that 45 over? And when you do, you get what? Equals 0. Perfect. Okay, everybody good so far? Now this way says solve by factoring. So we're going to look at what you have over here. And Jack, we have a trinomial. And when you have a trinomial, you want to ask yourself, is A1? So you just ask yourself what question? What?
What multiplies to negative 45 and adds to negative 4x?
Just negative 4, yeah. Let me know when you figure it out or when you remember. Got it?
Negative 95.
Negative 9 and positive 5. Multiply to give me negative 45. Yep. Add to give me negative 4. So, Jack, how does this factor then? You just, right, since A is 1, life is easy. You just factor it into what?
X minus 9 plus 5.
Good. X minus 9, x plus 5. The only thing is we have an equals 0 now. So now it didn't say just factor. It said solve by factoring. So now we have to go one step further. We have to remember our zero product property. Have we talked about the zero product property in here this year? Okay. If you have two things multiplied together equal to 0, what could you tell me about one of them? Yeah, Ava says one of them has to be 0, right? So if I have 4 times something equal to 0, what's that something have to be? 0. If I have something times negative 3 equal to 0, what's that something has to be? So if I have A times B equal to 0, either A is 0 or B is 0. That's the zero product property. Well, that's how you solve this. If we have this times that equal to 0, a lot of you will skip this part and go right to the answer. I'm going to say x minus 9 is 0 or x plus 5 is 0. What do you guys do to solve this one? What do you guys do to solve this one? You add 9 and you get x is 9. What do you do here? Subtract 5, you get x is. Many of you will go straight from here to here, and I'm fine with that. Fine, because I think you should be able to look at the factors x minus 9, x plus 5 equal to 0. Now the solutions are 9 and negative 5. Okay, but that's the why. If you want to know why is it 9 and negative 5, that's the why. Okay, questions on A? All right, B. Okay, don't forget your first rule of factoring. If you remember your first rule of factoring, your life will be so much easier. Mitch, I called on you while you were in the bathroom. What's the first rule of factoring? That is one of them, but there's a rule before that. Do you have a GCF?
Yeah,
Okay. 2. When you pull out a 2, what do you have left? Okay, perfect. So now, what's left is a trinomial. Now is A1.
Yeah.
So what are you going to ask yourself?
What multiplies to get me? Would it be negative 4 or do you do negative 4?
Okay, is A1?
Yeah.
You're looking at this. What multiplies to give me
3.
and adds to give you, and what is it?
4 and 1.
Okay,
Or negative 1.
4 and 1 do not multiply to give me 3. Got to multiply to give me 3.
3 and 1. Negative 3 and negative 1.
There you go. Negative 3 and negative 1. So how do you factor this? You got this 2 on the outside, and then what do you have left?
X minus 3.
And
X plus 1.
why is it plus 1?
Minus 1.
Everybody else okay? Mitch, you okay? All right, so now, here's the thing with this one. Some of you guys are like, I don't know what to do with that 2. You have this times this equal to 0. When you pull that out, can you solve 2 equal? Do you have anything to solve for? Is there an x there? No. Does 2 equal 0? Goes away. What does this one give me? X equals what? 3. What does this one give me? 1. There's your two solutions. Now, the reason that works for some of you who want it, some of you will do this every time and it'll work for you and it'll be fine. But some of you in here want to know why. At the beginning, because I have an equation, and this is why I don't like to teach this to everybody because then you forget to factor out the 2 when I say just factor. But since it's equal to 0 and you have an equation, as long as you do it to one side, you're allowed to do it to the other. Could I have divided every term by 2 at the beginning? And then you get x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. So you could have done that at the beginning too, because you have an equation. You cannot do that if you just have an expression. Okay? All right, let's try another one. We got to get this one, Olivia, in the right form. What are you going to do first? And when you do, you get what? Perfect. Okay, so we're solving now. Do you have a GCF, Olivia? No. You have a trinomial, is A1. So what do we do when we have a trinomial, Olivia, and A is not 1?
You have to multiply 3 times -2.
And what is 3 times -2?
-6.
And you're going to ask yourself what multiplies to give you,
-6.
that adds to give you,
-5. Which is -6 and 1.
-6 and +1. Now, guys, A is not 1. Life is not easy. You may not just factor. You have to split this up. Olivia, since I called on you, which one do you want to put first?
-6.
Yeah, guys, if you have one positive and one negative, it is so much easier to put the negative factor first. Because then you don't have to worry about taking a negative out of the second group. So, Olivia, what do you want to factor out here?
3x.
And when you do, what do you have left?
X minus 2.
So what are you going to factor out of this one? You have to factor something out.
Positive.
Just a 1. Yeah. And when you do, what do you have left?
X minus 2.
Did you make the same thing inside the parentheses?
Yeah.
So what did it factor to?
3x plus 1 and then x minus 2.
Does it matter what order your factors are in? Are you done once you factor? Now you've got to set each factor equal to 0 because it says solve. I know you guys are like, I can't get that it says solve. I'm saying this because some of the questions on the test will say just factor. Some of the questions on the quiz will say solve by factoring. And you guys get those two things mixed up. What do we do here, everybody? -1. So you get 3x equals -1. Divide both sides by... And x is, what do you do to solve this one? Add 2, and you get that x is 2. Here's your 2 solutions. Questions on the first 3 problems. I want you to notice the way these are written and what the direction says. Solve by factoring. And I give you an equation that says this equals that. This equals that. Okay? And you solved it. The directions here say find the zeros. Well, remember, the zeros are the x-intercepts, which are the solutions. So the process is exactly the same with one tiny difference. It says f of x equals. Okay, so what are y'all going to let f of x be? That's the only difference. You have to come in and let f of x be 0. That's the only reason it says find the 0 instead of solve. But is it the same process now? Yeah. Do you guys have a GCF? No. AJ, what do you have? Good. And you have a trinomial. A is 1. Life is easy. What multiplies to give you -8 that adds to give you +2?
4 -2.
So what did this factor into?
X plus 4, x minus 2.
Now, you can set each of these factors equal to 0 and show that you subtract 4 and show that you add 2. But I would guess at this level, many of you are just going to come here and say x is what? And here you're going to say x is what? Are you guys good with how I'm doing that without showing work? Okay. Any questions on A? Okay. Find the 0 of B. This is one that's really easy, and you go on. Okay? Don't. It's really easy. Throwing somebody on the floor. Who is it? Paige. All right, Paige, what are we going to let f of x be? 0. Paige, what's our first rule of factoring? Does this one have a GCF?
Yes.
What is it?
X.
X. Do you guys see that? Everybody gets to this problem. I have no idea what to do. It's not a difference of squares. 8's not a perfect square. So you're just going to factor out. You have a GCF. It's X. So Paige, when you factor out X, what do you have left?
X minus 8.
Okay. Did you factor it fully? Mm-hmm. Now set each factor equal to 0. You have this times this equal to 0. So you would tell me either x is 0 or, now many of you will just come down to the answer. You're going to tell me x is 0 or x is what? Done. But sometimes the 0 gets people. You have x equals 0. You have something to solve there, so just solve. Questions on that one? Okay, last one, and then we'll give you homework. Do you have a question, Josh? No. Okay. Work on C. Okay, what are we going to do to solve this one? I picked, who did I pick? I picked Julian. What are you going to do, Jill?
So you're gonna set f of x to 0.
Okay.
And then you're gonna do 2 times 12 to get 24, and that's what you need to multiply to. And then add to equal negative 11, which would be negative 8 and negative 3.
Okay, so how'd you break this up?
So I did 2x squared minus 8x, and then negative 3x.
Good. If you flip-flop those, we'll get the same answer. What'd you pull out of the first group?
2
2x.
x,
And what'd you have left?
1x, and 4x. No, 4.
Negative 4.
Yes.
Okay, what'd you pull out of this group? Being very careful.
3.
Watch your sign.
Negative 3.
Leading term is negative, so you're going to pull out a negative 3. And when you do, what do you have left?
X, and negative 4.
Okay, so what did you have left then when you factored?
2x minus 3, and then x minus 4.
Okay, does anybody need help doing that a different way and getting it solved? Okay, great. So now, Caleb, when you set each of these equal to 0, okay, what'd you do for this first one, Caleb? Added 3, and then what? So you got x's, and then what'd you get over here? How'd we do? What do you guys think of this? Is this okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me pass out your worksheet. Your worksheet is numbers 1 through 12 all.
We're gonna win.
All right. Guys, when you get the first ones that says solve by graphing, you may use your graphing calculator. Okay? And then I think we've done all the others. I think you should be good with those.